Coming to you live from Monrovia, California. This is an intro-less highlight episode of the Harris Highlight Show this week. Joining us is our college football analyst, Josh Schaefer, our college football expert, Lyle Goldstein, our executive producer, Brady Klain, and I'm your host for the evening, Blake Harris. Boys, how's everyone's past week been? How's everyone's 24 hours been? I'm sure it's been a lot better than mine has.
I didn't tweet anything stupid last night to make Padres fans mad, so I'm fine.
So you're already winning.
I mean, yeah, I guess so.
Like, as they say in the great song All-Star by Smash Mouth, you should have started off by saying, "My world's on fire. How about
yours?"
Literally and figuratively, your world is on fire.
There you go. I guess you've made it when you're like actually receiving death threats. Like that's when you've really peaked. So hey, Padres Twitter, man, death threats over a tweet. How about it? But that's, if you guys want to go over, don't go to my main Twitter. Go find my Dodgers Twitter, and you guys can pretty much find that in itself. Guys, we have not really a jam-packed show this week because there wasn't a whole lot of college football action from this past week, and we are still going to talk about it. We're going to go into it. Normally, it's about an hour and a half show. We're going to keep it to about an hour 5, hour 10 this week. But again, a lot to get to. Before we get to all that fun, fantastic info, make sure to follow the show on Twitter at the HH Show _ and go follow us on Instagram at Harris Highlight Show. So again, if you guys have social media, you guys can over there. You guys can go follow us on our Instagram page. I'm having a lot of people like hit us up and ask if we can follow back on Instagram, but I kind of want to make it one of those like famous person accounts where they only follow a few people. And as of right now, the only people we follow are us four. So I think it'd be kind of epic if we can get to like 1,000 followers without following anyone back. Or we can just do what we did on the Inside Pitch account years ago and we just follow 5,000 people to get our followers up, and we'll see how it goes from there. But if you guys are on social media, go over there, give us those follows and whatnot. You guys can listen to our show on Spotify and Apple Podcast. The link to that is in the description below. You guys can support the show by donating on Super Chat. You guys can ask us questions, suggest topics you'd like to hear us talk about. Again, if there's like a game from this past weekend or a player's performance from this past weekend that we're not discussing and you want to hear our thoughts on it, you guys can leave like a $1, $2 donation, something like that. Let us know in the Super Chat and we can talk about that. You guys can also become a Patreon member for as little as $1 a month. You guys can unlock exclusive content. You have a chance to win a one-on-one Zoom call with us. You guys are entered into all these fun contests. You guys can be a member, be a guest on a future show. I shouldn't say member. I should say future guest because we're keeping it at 4 members. We're not going to 5 like we used to do. But yeah, Patreon, a lot of fun. Again, you guys, you help the show out. You help support it. Again, Josh has a brand new mic, and that's courtesy of all of our Patreon members. So if you're interested in that, the link is in the description below. Lots of awesome stuff, and it only costs $1. But guys, I think that's pretty much just the instant rundown, and it's time to get to the latest college football news. So officially, we were just talking about this before we went live. This past week was week 2. For me, it was considered to be week 1 just because 2 weeks ago there was only a handful of games, but officially it was week 2. This upcoming week is going to be week 3. So I asked you guys this question last week when we had a few college football games. We actually had, some decent teams playing this past week and no really good matchups. We actually had some decent teams playing. The ACC was back this upcoming weekend. The Big 12 is going to be back. What were your guys' thoughts? Well, I guess the Big 12 was back last week too because there was teams that played. What were your guys' thoughts, takeaways from this week in college football where we got to see, the Clemsons play, the Texas play, the Oklahomas play?
Big 12, not looking good, guys. I think that's going to need to be figured out pretty quickly. But Oklahoma looked really good for the people that paid $60 to watch them play Montana State. But other than that, I mean, I thought for the most part everything was pretty much chalk for this weekend, except for Rock Chalk Jayhawk. That was not chalk. But other than that, I think pretty much everything else went as you'd expect, and a couple of good performances that we'll highlight in a bit. But Big 12, man, I don't know, a little worried.
I mean, it was nice to just see some competitive teams playing. You see Trevor Lawrence get back on the field. That's always fun. It just feels like even with the ACC getting back and some of these Big 12 teams coming back, it just feels like a little something's missing. And like we've talked about with only 3 of the Big 5 conferences playing, it just felt like something was missing about the big week 1 of college football, although maybe subject to change, question mark. We might get to that later.
Mine's pretty straightforward. James Blackman, not good at football.
Oh God, yeah.
Not good at football.
The fact that it's 2020, we're a week into the official college football season, and Florida State, they are already choking and letting everyone down, especially that bettor on the Pat McAfee show who decided to opt out and cash out of his $20 bet in order to get a couple $100. So
plus 42,000 and it would have hit.
Plus 42,000. So he decided, you know what, let me cash out of that. That makes no sense. But yeah, it was good seeing some of these teams play. Now, granted, I didn't, pay the $60 to watch Oklahoma, Missouri State. However, it was nice to see Spencer Rattler put up, 18 of 19 for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns in the first quarter. Then he was pulled or something like that. But it was definitely interesting seeing, some of these teams playing. It was interesting seeing which stadiums had fans. I think one of the games I was watching, what was it? I think Arkansas State, Kansas State, they had a good amount of fans in the stadium. And I couldn't tell still if they were making how on Fox, they have those imaginary fake fans where it's 2K graphics. If they overlay those on top of real fans, because the place looked pretty crowded and there was a good amount of people, but overall reaction, it was interesting. I mean, again, for the most part, there were no real good games. I mean, probably the best decent game we got was, I guess, Notre Dame Duke, because those are actually two, somewhat competitive teams. The rest were kind of just, whatnot. So we're going to be getting to that, in a bit. But guys, before we get to, our 4 stars of the week, where we pretty much talk about who we thought the MVPs were, again, talking about more of our games. I know some people in the comments are already asking, what is the update on our Patreon league? So for those of you that don't know, we have a fantasy football league with all of our Patreon members, and it was a whole lot of fun. Now, I talked a lot of smack last week saying I'd go, undefeated. It's kind of tough to go undefeated when Josh's team is coming out here putting up 200 points. So Josh's team comes out, puts up 200 points. He gets 51 from Devontae Adams. 25 from Dalvin Cook, 21 from Robert Woods, 20 from Stephon Diggs, 16 from Drew Lock, 23 from Tom Brady. Again, tip my hat off to Josh, but 200 points, he did it in our regular fantasy league. He put up, I think, 180.
It's also very nice that my 3 top players are the same on both teams. So I have Robert Woods, Devontae Adams, and Dalvin Cook. So watching two of them played each other. Adams and Cook played each other, and then Robert Woods. I could have watched 2 games all day on Sunday, and that would have been fine for both of my teams.
Yeah, so it was not pleasant. But you came out on top. Meanwhile, we go to Brady and Lyle's matchup. Brady came out. Now, this was a very close one. Brady wins 174.5 to 170.
And who would have thought that Saquon and Deontay Johnson were the 2 players I relied on to get me a win? They did, but I relied on them. And after a muffed punt and Saquon having less rushing yards than Big Ben, I still won? Come on, Lyle, do better.
It was a DeAndre Swift touchdown away from being my win.
Yeah, good point.
Drop touchdown in the end zone away.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, looking at you guys, it was brutal because, Brady, you got -5 for having the Colts. Lyle got -4.5 for having the Cowboys. I'm looking at here. I got +5.5 for having the Bills, and Josh got -5.5 for having the Bucks. So it turns out I was the only one that correctly predicted whose team was going to win. So that was interesting. But before we move on, we have to give a shout out to the highest scoring team of the week, which goes to Andrew Koster, whose team name is Because Why Not, put up 206.
Ooh.
So he beat Josh by, I think, 9 points. He beat him by 9 points. Yeah, this one right here, Saquon there was a time where I think going into the second half, we all had more rushing yards than Saquon Barkley did.
He had negative 6 yards.
He had negative 6 yards, on 9 carries. And I'm like, I'm not sure because we haven't seen any preseason or anything. I'm not sure if this is necessarily the Giants' offensive line might be the worst offensive line I've ever personally seen, or the Steelers' defense is going to be the best defense we've ever seen. It's literally, it's tough to really gain any yards when the second you receive the handoff from your quarterback, there are already 3 or 4 defenders literally about to tackle you.
Kirk Herbstreit said in an interview today, Blake, that it was both of those. That
Yeah.
He called it a work in progress, was the nice way of him saying that the Giants offensive line is what we call hot garbage.
Yeah.
What's funny is in a quarterback battle that featured Daniel Jones and Ben Roethlisberger, both quarterbacks had more rushing yards than Saquon Barkley.
Nailed it. Lyle, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, we'll see how the rest of the season plays out, but I have this bookmark from somewhere a while back because my favorite account on Twitter, and especially NFL Twitter, Warren Sharp, basically tweeted like Saquon Barkley on first down against anything but light boxes is terrible. So we'll see how he does the rest of the year, but like that's just like stats that have built up over time about Saquon that he just does not do well against the heavy box. And the Steelers all game, their plan was to bring pressure. So.
Yeah, and the Steelers have one of the best front sevens in all of football. We'll see going this year for sure.
Wasn't pretty at all. But that second Monday Night Football game, Brady, I don't know what it was like for you because that game's ending at like nearly 2 a.m. on the East Coast. For us, it's just like a normal 7 o'clock kickoff game like no other. So having the game end at 10 is nothing. But that was an ugly Monday Night Football game, part two. Again, I can't imagine staying up till 1:30 to watch it. And I was sweating it because I was playing Sean in our ASU league. And I had a 25-point lead going into it, but I had the Titans defense. He had Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon scores that touchdown with like 6 or 7 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. And then the Titans defense, they're just allowing more and more points. And then my lead was down to 2 going into that final possession. So essentially, had the Broncos completed one pass on that final drive or given it to Melvin, I would have lost. I ended up winning. I put up 98 points. I get the win. In our league here, I put up 165 and I lose. So that's fantasy football for you guys right there.
Vic Fangio is the worst clock manager I've ever seen.
He is.
Also, I sent you guys a text at 12:01 Eastern. I said it's midnight Eastern and the second half is just getting started. The game ended at 1:50 Eastern, and I watched all of it.
I love it. All right, guys. So we got a brand new segment for this year. It is called our 4 stars of the week. So normally when we did our show in years past, we would essentially just kind of break down all the games. But again, since there are really no games to talk about, again, if there's a game you'd like us to talk about, you guys can donate $1 or $2 to the super chat, and we can give our thoughts on that. But the games this week were pretty brutal. I mean, it wasn't like that first week when every game was essentially just 50-0. But this game didn't really offer much. So what we're going to do is we're going to give our 4 stars of the week. Each one of us is going to give what we thought our MVP from the previous weekend was. It could be a quarterback, could be a head coach, could be an offense, could be a defense. Could be a broadcaster. I mean, I can give my MVP to Kirk Herbstreit and Chris Fowler for them doing Monday Night Football. I mean, the second crew was definitely better than years past, but that first game was fantastic. So if we can get them doing Monday Night Football every week, that'd be fantastic. But again, our 4 stars, every MVP. You guys can go in anywhere you want. So if anyone wants to kick things off first, you guys can take it. And again, if you guys are watching right now, you guys can drop a comment who your star of the week was, who you thought had the best overall week 2 performance.
So I'll kick this off with my first star of the week, and I'm kind of going to do this one because this is a game that we don't really need to talk a whole lot about, and the final score was kind of what we expected, but not the game we expected. So my star of the week is going to the North Carolina defense. And in a 31-6 game, you'd think they put up 31 points, like Sam Howell was slinging it. Not really. Like, I'm going to press pause on all of the overreactions to Sam Howell and the North Carolina offense, at least up to this point. But they had 3 touchdowns on the ground. All of them were 1-yard runs. This North Carolina defense is the reason why UNC won this game against Syracuse. This was like a 1-point game, or the score was 7-3 in the third quarter, and Syracuse was stopped from scoring a touchdown, had to settle for a field goal. And at that point, that's when the North Carolina offense took over. I mean, they've been the hype this whole season, or this whole offseason, but I think the North Carolina defense, we'll have to keep an eye on them this year in the ACC. I don't think they're going to stop Clemson, for example, but, they had an interception against Syracuse. They held Syracuse to 200 yards and 6 points through 4 quarters. They held them to 68 rushing yards on 35 attempts, while on the other side of the ball, in the same number of carries, North Carolina rushed for 3 touchdowns and 160 yards. They held Syracuse to 4 for 20 on 3rd and 4th down combined. So I think North Carolina's defense is the reason why they ultimately pull away at the end and get this win, because you're only going to keep that offense quiet for so long. But alternatively, if Syracuse had scored when they drove all the way down the field and then were stopped by the North Carolina North Carolina defense. If they score there, I'm going to be honest, like Syracuse defense making a push for my star of the week. I mean, through 3 quarters, they kept arguably a top 5 offense in college football to 7 points and then to 10 points through 3 quarters. And they forced 3 turnovers against Sam Howell in that offense. So congrats to Syracuse's defense, but North Carolina's defense is the reason why they pull away with that 25-point win or whatever it was.
Yeah, look, my concern for North Carolina was their defense going into this year. And obviously they only played a team like Syracuse to start, but you can't get off to a much better start than that from the defensive side of the ball. So I'm with you there. My star of the week, another game we don't really need to talk about, but I just want to highlight one player, is Malik Cunningham, Louisville's quarterback. Look, this trio is legit, and Malik Cunningham comes out week 1, and he proves it. I mean, 343 yards. He went for 4 total touchdowns. Obviously, yes, they only played Western Kentucky, but he was responsible for 2 different wide receivers on Louisville going for over 100 yards. Neither were named Tutu Atwell. And this guy was just slinging it around all day long. And Javian Hawkins, their star running back, he had an okay game. He didn't wow anybody. I mean, this game was on Cunningham. And obviously those 3 guys, Atwell, Cunningham, and Hawkins, are supposed to be their big 3. Atwell and Hawkins were fine in this game. They didn't play bad. Atwell still had 7 catches. This game was on Cunningham. I mean, he came out week 1. He made a statement.
I'm going to mix it up. I'm going to go with a coach for mine, and I'm going to go with Louisiana's head coach, Billy Napier, rocking the Ragin' Cajuns over Iowa State. Their first road ranked win over a ranked team in program history. So big props to Billy Napier. We saw him a couple years ago. He used to be at ASU as an offensive coordinator, but has taken over the reins down in Louisiana. And he's the guy there now, and he showed out what he can do as a coach, knocking off a top 25 team in the country. So I'm going to give props and my star this week to Billy Napier.
Yeah, I mean, initially, when I was thinking of like I wanted to have like a team or something, I was going to go with Louisiana just because I guess we can briefly talk about this one right now. Is the fact that Louisiana, they come out, they beat Iowa State on the road, which I mean, I don't know how much that really means.
Ames is a tough place to play. Doesn't matter if you got fans or not.
So I mean, they win by 17. They made Brock Purdy look awful. I mean, Brock Purdy looked awful out there. And Louisiana, they look good. All joking aside, and a lot of people in the comments were talking about this. A lot of people on Twitter were talking about this, that Louisiana, they like low-key looked like the best team in the country. Granted, it was 1 week, but you can make the case Louisiana had the best overall performance from last week. I don't know what the spread was in that game, but I'm sure it was Iowa State by a good amount of points, and they dominated. It wasn't like they squeaked out a victory. They dominated the entire game. They looked in control the entire game. And again, the fact that they made Brock Purdy, who many have, me included, is kind of like a late first-round pick. He could potentially be a mid-first-round pick in the upcoming draft. He looked bad. Now, I get that this is like the first game. Who knows how much practice they've had. But, yeah, Louisiana, well done for them. They actually come in at number 19 in the AP poll. I don't know if that's the highest they've ever been. I would assume it's got to be close. I know Brady, I'm sure he'll somehow find it. But
it was Iowa State minus 13, by the way.
Okay, so minus 13. They lose by 17. That's a 30-point swing. That's a 30-point swing. That's a lot of points in the betting world. But in regards to my MVP, I'm going to go with Jonathan Adams Jr., wide receiver for Arkansas State. 8 catches, 98 yards, but 3 receiving touchdowns. They upset Kansas State on the road. They looked really good. I mean, he was the best player. And, the 8 catches, 98 yards, that won't really wow you over. But 3 receiving touchdowns, I mean, he had a great performance. Again, they upset Kansas State on the road. And I should say a hostile environment, considering that Kansas State had to look like, 15, 20,000 fans there. So overall, I thought it was the best receiving performance of the overall week. So Arkansas State, props to you guys. But what a week for the Big 12, guys. I mean, the Big 12, an absolutely brutal week. We just talked about Iowa State. They go down. Kansas State, they go down. Kansas, guys. Kansas football, who I had in Blake's bets last week. They were a -7 at home against Coastal Carolina. The last game of the night, and they lose by 15.
Go Chanticleers. Also, Blake, by the way, not only is this jumping back. Not only is this Louisiana's highest ranking they've ever had, it's the first time they've ever been ranked.
So there you go. But then it is a weird season. So I'm looking at the AP.
They're not taking it with an asterisk, though.
They're not. They're not. I mean, I'm looking at the AP poll right now. The fact that Tennessee jumped up 10 spots for not even playing a game. They're ranked number 15 right now. Louisiana, they come in at number 19. Some random ones in here. Army, they come in at 22. BYU comes in at 21. I like seeing all these different rankings where Texas, they jump up 5 spots. Texas A&M, Oklahoma State, they jumped up for not even playing at all. Looking at the teams receiving votes, Florida State, they lost. They got embarrassed by Georgia Tech. They received 2 votes. I'm sure a bunch of these other teams that received votes didn't even play. I saw some poll somewhere. I don't know if it was a coach's poll or whatnot, but there was some poll out there where Boise State received votes. Boise State's not playing this fall. So it just goes to show anything can happen. Anything can happen. I was
going to say, here's this for the random Brady stat of the night, that a team made history this week in the AP poll. Ohio State is the furthest dropping team in AP poll history. They went from second to unranked.
Ooh, that's rough.
It's rough for the Buckeyes. It's a rough week for the Buckeyes.
That's going to have a fat asterisk.
Yeah,
that's going to be like one of those things. So what's the biggest drop in AP poll history? Yeah, I remember back in 2020 when Ohio State went from 2 to unranked.
Yeah.
There you go, right there. Short round comes in 4 stars. Arkansas State offensive play caller. Any Florida State fans still cheering for the Noles after that game? Coastal Carolina overall, and a Cool Whip spray can.
Yes.
Oh yes.
I'm trying to find some other ones. So right here, I talked about Arkansas State, the best wide receiver right now. So I talked about him going into that. Cost Sports, our good buddy Andrew said Trevor Lawrence, who had a fantastic game. 22 of 28, 351 yards, 3 total touchdowns. There were some other ones that I found that were up here. Arkansas State, Jonathan Adams, college football player of the week. So a lot of people have him. Right there. We got Pac-12 Short saying the team of the week is Louisiana Lafayette. At this point, too, since there's not that many games, we can also have a team of the week, something like that, even though we've been including them in our rankings. But guys, just some other things I kind of want to mention, not necessarily our 4 stars, but we can just talk about these overall as a whole. We talked about, Florida State, they're embarrassing, whatnot. Take that for what you will. I want to talk about Spencer Rattler. This was the first legit action, I guess you can see, that we've seen him play, because last year we only saw him in second halves of blowouts. Well, this is essentially the same thing. He's coming in against Missouri State, and he did exactly what we thought he was going to do. 14 of 17, 290 yards, 4 touchdowns. I think like in the first quarter, he was something like 6 of 7 for 150 yards with 2 touchdowns. So I know none of us watched this game and paid $60 on pay-per-view, but I assume you guys went and saw the highlights. What are you guys' takeaways from Spencer Rattler and how he looked again in his first outing, if you officially want to call it that, going against Missouri State?
I mean, I can't say I'm surprised. I mean, to start off, and it's not to take anything from him, but it's Missouri State, not the most elite competition to start your college career. But this is what we expected him to do. We thought this is what he was going to do. This is a team that's won like 2 or 3 games in the last 2 years. So it's exactly what he should have done. It's what we expected, and he came out and he did it. And I think that anything less than what he did would be ridiculed. And I think he deserves praise for week 1. And look, I know it's Missouri State, but moving into the Big 12, and I think that the Big 12 gets a lot of heat for their defense, maybe sometimes too much heat, because we've seen teams like Texas and Oklahoma improve in the past, but bottom line, and that wasn't like a shot at Lyle. I'm just saying, I do think that a couple teams in the conference have better defenses than people give them credit for. But bottom line, this is a guy that's probably going to be able to torch Big 12 offenses. And yeah, it's Missouri State, but if he showed anything from week 1, he showed that he can do this against other Big 12 teams.
Yeah, I'll keep this short. This is who I had finishing second in the Heisman behind Trevor Lawrence this year, and I said in this game he'd probably be out by about the second quarter. I mean, he went out in the first quarter. He absolutely dominated. He was the best player on the whole field, and he showed why he's such a highly touted guy. We can see why he might maybe not be in New York if there's not an actual ceremony, but we can see why he's got a chance to be a Heisman finalist.
He played until I think it was the end of the third quarter, so they gave him 3 quarters, which, for a guy who's in his first true start, you don't want to just bench him at halftime. You want to get him to see how he looks after a little bit of rest, after, the peak and valley there of halftime. So I think it was a smart move by Lincoln Riley to keep him in for the third quarter. And I think what they did was a great job. Spencer Rattler, like we all talked about, we all had him. I think we all had him in our Heisman picks. I don't know if he exceeded expectations because of the competition that they played, but I'm not diminishing what he did this past week because it was still a great game, all around game of football for Spencer Rattler. First drive, he was like 4 for 4 for 80 yards and a touchdown. So that's a pretty good first drive for Spencer Rattler for sure.
Yeah, Oklahoma was up 31-0 at the end of the first quarter. I mean, if they wanted to, they could have won this game by 100 plus. And I don't know what just is happening here, but I'm uncomfortable. I'm feeling really uncomfortable. Before we move on to the next thing, I want to talk about a few comments I want to get to. Les Miles went from winning the Natty with LSU to losing to Coastal Carolina only in a 12-year span. So it was a long 12 years, but there you go.
Hey, Blake, that's how long it took Blake to graduate college, so it's fine.
It is.
Josh is on that trend too now, apparently.
Hey. I finished the degree.
We got some more insight on Louisiana from Kevin. Louisiana had only won one game against a top 25 team in school history before this game. They beat Texas A&M. So there you go.
They were a good team last year too. They went 11-3 and won a bowl game.
They were. AP voters are confused on who is and who isn't playing or just voting for random teams on a dartboard. It's like last year when that same AP poll voter was voting for North Dakota State every week for whatever reason, which I'm pretty sure
Who was the AP poll voter that you called out on the show last year and threatened to fly to wherever?
2 years ago.
Was it 2 years ago?
He kept calling out Clemson, and then they won the title.
Yeah, it was the guy that put Clemson. He was the only one that had Clemson. But that was the year, I think, when Bama was just absolutely dominating. Again, Clemson was a good team, but 4, 5, 6 weeks into the season, I think Alabama had taken down a few ranked opponents and Clemson hadn't beaten any ranked opponents. And this guy was continuously being the only person that was putting them, and I completely called him out. And then Clemson went on to, win the Natty and whatnot. Andrew says Missouri State also went 1-10 in the FCS last year. So it doesn't help when you have Oklahoma playing them, but considering that Missouri State is actually one of the bottom feeders of the FCS, that's not what you call ideal, boys. It's not what you call ideal. Kickfinity comes in with the donation. It's a weird year when Louisiana is in the top 20. Things are about to get even weirder considering Louisiana is probably going to keep moving up, and they might get to the top 15. They might get to the top 10. We need some chaos, guys. We need Louisiana to go undefeated, and it turns out they're the first group of 5 team that cracks the playoff. Not Cincinnati, not UCF. Louisiana.
I'm down.
Are you guys down for that?
Yeah.
Let's see if we got any other comments before we can move on. I'm just going through. It's tough when they're all coming in. They're all coming in. This is actually kind of a fun one. I kind of like this right here. Who's your guys' biggest loser of the week minus Florida State? I think that's the consensus biggest loser of the week, considering that we all had Florida State beating Georgia Tech, and they lost. I think Georgia Tech, when we did our ACC predictions, I can't remember. I think we all had them either at the bottom or the bottom 2. I think we had them winning 1 or 2 games, and Florida State's just going to Florida State. I'll say that.
Or Iowa State, you can have as your biggest loser.
True, yeah.
Be in there as well.
Too. But considering how good Louisiana, because that's the thing, Louisiana, they can come out. They actually legit might be a pretty decent team. I don't think Georgia State's going to be a good team, but I do think, you can make the case for Iowa State as well.
Were you just saying the Florida State predictions that we had? Is that what you talked about a second ago? Blake, you had them 5-6. Josh had them going 6-5. Lyle 6-5. I had them going 6-5.
What do we have Georgia Tech at?
Let me pull it back up.
They were low, unlike everybody's.
Winless.
Blake, you had Georgia Tech 2-9. Josh 1-10. Lyle 3-8. I had them at 2-9.
So they've already picked up one of their wins.
There you go, Josh. They need to go winless from here on out.
No more. No mas for Georgia Tech. This was it.
There you go. The playoff: UCF, Louisiana, Georgia Tech, and Army. How many? I have it before we move on. Georgia Tech. I want to see. They got they're third in regards to others receiving votes. So Georgia Tech, we had them for 2 wins. They're 1 win away from being ranked all of a sudden right now in this crazy weird year.
Blake, the AP poll voter was Soren Petro.
How'd you? I can't believe you found it.
Oh,
I can't believe you found it.
Please.
All right, guys, it's time to move on to our next segment, and that is Blake's bets. I had 5 bets last week. Unfortunately, one of the games got canceled, so we couldn't have all 5. We went 2-2 on the week. I got shafted by the Kansas game. I had Kansas winning. They were -7. They lost by 2 touchdowns. I also had Clemson winning by 33. They still won the game, but they didn't necessarily win by 33 points. So I got my bets for you guys this week. We got 5 more. Hopefully these games don't get canceled. I got UCF -7.5 over Georgia Tech. I got North Carolina -30 over Charlotte. I think North Carolina is going to bounce back from that, I guess you could say, weak performance for the most part in week 1. I got Louisville versus Miami. That's probably going to be the game of the week. I got Louisville -2.5 over Miami. I like them there. Oklahoma State, I got them -23 against Tulsa. And we got to have an underdog somewhere. So I got Syracuse +22 at Pittsburgh. Now, guys, the best part about betting, I can say this personally, is when your bet cashes and when it hits. But if you don't bet, the best part of betting is a bad beat. And our executive producer, Brady, I guess, has a bad beat that he would like to share with us. So
So we were talking about the Big 12 a second ago. One of the teams that's in the Big 12 that's the furthest away from the Big 12, that's West Virginia. I don't know if you guys saw this, but I think they were a 30-point favorite. They ended up winning 56-10, and they were up like 45 nothing at halftime, or 42 nothing, whatever it was. They were big at halftime. And so the two teams they played against, Eastern Kentucky, they agreed to play 10-minute quarters for the rest of the half, for the second half. So the math there, a game has to go, I think it's 55 minutes to be considered a complete game. They shortened the 2 quarters, so the game was under 55 minutes, so it did not technically count as a complete game in the betting. So those who bet it on West Virginia to take the over on the 30-point spread, they didn't get their bets hit.
But they did get their money back.
They did get their money back, but still, you didn't cash out. You didn't make the money. But
it's great if you have West Virginia -30, whatever it was. It's awful if you had the other one. Or it's great if you were going to lose, and you get your money back. It's awful if you were going to win.
You're going to win. And, it couldn't have been, that much money you'd be winning anyways.
That happens right there. So I like this from Short Round. Brady just finds all these random facts so fast so we can find who the leader rushing of U of Chicago versus Notre Dame back in 1901 was. I'm pretty sure Brady's actually found that stat at one point of some sort. Guys, this is something interesting because I don't know if it's official. I know, Brady, you talked about this was going to happen during the show at some point. So the Big Ten announcement, is that officially happening at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, or is that still kind of like up in the air? I've been seeing conflicting reports. I guess we can just briefly touch on this before we move to the Q&A, then get to our Pickems, guys. We talked about this thing in the show last week and weeks prior, how the Big Ten, they're making, massive efforts to get the season happening. I got a Bleacher Report notification about how like USC players were like meeting. What was it like? I think it was with like the California governor or
so Slovis and I think Amon-Ra St. Brown. They spearheaded a process to get in touch with Newsom. And they wrote a letter, and the letter was just signed USC football, but a lot of the reports said that it was St. Brown and Slovis that started it. And all the coaches have been supporting them, and former players have been on social media too, like Leinart. And so, we'll see what happens. I think there's been some speculation that the Pac-12 might aim for something in October and November. So we'll see what actually happens there. But I think that, especially on the West Coast, a lot of these governors and these schools are being a little more cautious with playing with the coronavirus.
Blake, I don't have the leading rusher for that game, but I can tell you that Notre Dame won 32-0 against Chicago Electric Medical Football Team in 1901, which was Chicago. And that game was played at South Bend.
That's fantastic. I can't believe it was an actual game. So, again, it's been back and forth, but it seems like there's a lot of momentum in regards to the Big Ten, the Pac-12 playing. Let's just say, because I know the Big Ten, they talked about they want to try to get a season going early, middle October. For Pac-12, I've heard with the new testing they got, where they can test every day and get results within, I think it was 30 minutes or something like that.
Rapid results,
They're pushing for November. Let's say that this happens. Let's say that the Big Ten, they're able to come back, first, second week of October. Pac-12, they're able to come back middle of November. I think this makes things even worse for college football because I think we've all been under the impression either everyone plays or everyone doesn't play. We thought idea of playing in the spring was a stupid idea for a lot of reasons. But now all of a sudden, if you're having these teams come in the middle, these teams, half their seasons are over. They're still going to be having the college football playoff. They're still going to be having all, the big time bowl games. There's not going to be enough time for the Big Ten, Pac-12 teams to finish seasons in time to get into those playoff rankings, get into those big time bowl games, didn't get into the playoff. So I'm kind of under the impression where unless something comes out and they agree to push the playoff back, till maybe like middle, end of January, maybe like instead of having, the season end for these teams like early December, maybe they can like schedule, kind of like scrimmages against these other teams. That way they're still playing, they're still practicing. But it just seems silly to have these two conferences come back when, for the most part, they can't be, competing for for these titles. At least if you have them in the spring, again, although it's stupid, at least college football is done, the NFL is done. At least we have Big Ten football, we have Pac-12 football. At least it's something to keep our mind on. But this, I'd love it. I hope these players get a chance to play. I just don't see this really making a whole lot of sense. Especially considering there's no confirmation yet on when they could start.
Especially because, an outbreak's inevitable, right? It's going to happen. Yeah. Especially, look what Coach O said at LSU today. He's like, he thinks, 90% of his teams had it. He said, he's like, I hope they don't get it again. Like, if that's the mentality going forward, that's kind of dangerous, right? Like, yeah, these guys want to play, but if your whole team gets it, right, yeah, you might not have any, major side effects or current conditions, but, the long-lasting side effects are obviously there. We know that for sure. But this is something that's risky to do. Yes, I very much agree with pushing the season back. I think having the later start date with more information under your belt, with more medical information, with more information all around is a smart thing to do. So I think, the Pac-12 and the Big Ten, yes, they're getting scrutinized, but sorry. We had a lot of guys get the COVID. There you go. Yes, it's scrutinized what they're doing, but I think it's a smart thing to do.
Right. So, sorry, Lyle, you can go.
I was just going to say, I'm just curious. 2020 has been such a weird year and so many just strange things have happened left and right in sports, outside of sports. I just wonder with college football, or with the Big Ten specifically, say they come back, say they play end of October. I just still wonder if they try to alter college football, let the Big Ten play 8 games, and then they still have a chance to fight for the playoffs, so to speak. Just because, and these other 3 conferences are going to say, well, we just played 3 to 4 more games. How is that fair? But, they're a non-profit organization, but making money left and right, obviously. And what's going to make more money than another bit Power 5 conference just competing? I just wonder if they're going to try to alter things.
Yeah, it's not going to be fair because Ohio State, I think we all can agree, had they played a normal season, they likely would be in the college football playoff. But if they come out, they play only 8 games, let's say they go 8-0, but then you have Notre Dame goes 10-1, their lone loss was to Clemson or whatever, but you're putting in Ohio State over them because they went undefeated. It's is that fair to Notre Dame because they did win more games, they played 3 more games, but Ohio State, they went 8-0, they won their conference championship. So I think that this has the chance to make things really complicated. Again, the only way that they can make this work, I think, is if they do something where they would have to start both the Pac-12 and Big Ten would have to start the middle of October. I think they'd probably be able to get a 10-game season in, but that means they'd have to push the playoff back. Till
Big Ten doesn't even want a 10-game season. They want an 8-game season over 9 weeks.
Oh, they do. So is that the official what they want?
Yeah. They want an 8-game season over 9 weeks.
Yeah. So
and if they started October 10th, they would play the Big Ten championship right before the final college football playoff rankings come out.
Right. So it's because I saw the comments saying NCAA botched the hell out of this. No, it was the Big Ten and the Pac-12. But my thing is, I don't necessarily understand. It's kind of like the whole thing where how all of a sudden the Big Ten, the Pac-12, they just decided we're not going to have football. But it's not like this was a decision that all of a sudden had to be made within 24 hours. This is something they've known for months, and they decided to make this rash decision while these other conferences, they decided to play. You had to have known that for the most part this would go well. So it's you guys wanted to play in the spring. You guys were standing by that. You said, I mean, that's a big step to cancel the fall season. I mean, that is huge. And now just weeks later, it's not like a few months. This is a few weeks later, they're coming and saying, you know what? We want to come and we want to try to play mid-October. I just don't get the back and forth flip-flopping. Like, again, if you're fully committed to having a spring season, if you think that's the best idea, by all means go for it. Like, we don't think it's a smart idea, but commit to that. But after a few weeks, you're saying, you know what? Yeah, the spring season, we don't want that. We want to play in October. Again, I just don't get – the Pac-12 one makes sense just because of the reason this discovery they had where they can now do this, this testing where, again, it's like 15 to 30 minutes after the players take it, they get their test back. That I understand where now they think by November they can play. But, again, the Big Ten, this is just they want to play as soon as they can. So I just don't get the flip-flopping by those in charge.
I'll say this real quickly. I just reached out to somebody who's a player in the Big Ten and asked them, have you guys heard anything on the vote on a restart? And he's like, no, they're just hearing all the same rumors we are. So even within these schools, even within these athletic programs, specifically football, they're not hearing anything specifically more than what we are. So they said they're just sort of on standby. They're ready to go whenever, but it's sort of a wait and see thing, even for the players within the systems too.
Well, and once things get announced, I was just going to quickly say once things get announced, I'm sure more is going to unfold. For example, are we going to find out that the Big Ten is fighting for a national title, or are they kind of just playing their own season? Yeah. That's what I'm most curious to find out. Are they going to alter things?
And today, sorry, Josh, go ahead. I
was going to say that's what doesn't make sense, though, is because my biggest problem this entire time, I've said it 100 times, I'll say it 101st time, like there's no unity. There's no leadership. There's nothing. There's no consistency. We've said this every show, and that's my problem. You either all play or you all don't. Like, I'm sorry, like Clemson, good for you for being really good at football. And, you probably would have been in the playoff anyway if everybody were playing. Do you mean to tell me that you don't think that there should be an asterisk if you're playing your conference every game in the ACC, which we have all said has probably been the worst conference in football the last few years outside of Clemson? I know Notre Dame's in it. I know North Carolina's in it. That's great. But, like, there's got to be an asterisk. And whoever wins is going to say it's the most legit title ever. But the fact of the matter is that it won't be, because these teams aren't going to be competing with you. And you can't resume a season in October and have Ohio State come back into the picture, and you can't rank them. You just can't. Like, I'm sorry. You can't have Ohio State, who is clearly a top 4 or 5 team in college football, without playing this year. You can't bring them back into the fold and be like, oh, so you know how we ranked Louisiana, and I know that Miami and Louisville have been good, and we've got UCF in here, and we've got Cincinnati, and we've got South Florida. We've got all these teams that would have been otherwise irrelevant, no offense to UCF, in the top 25. But now that we've got Big Ten teams in, you're all just gone. Sorry, guys. Like, we're going to kick you all out because now we've got other teams that are legit in here. And suddenly Ohio State in November not playing a game is number 2 in the country, surrounded by all these undefeated teams in other conferences. You can't do that. You either play football or you don't. And that's how it should have been across college football. But then on the other side of things, you can't just resume a season later, have Pac-12 and Ohio State. Pac-12 and Ohio State. I mean, I guess, right? Yeah, Pac-12 and the Big Ten play 8-game seasons and then what? Just play each other in bowl games? Like, yeah, that'd be fun, but it's not legit. Like, nothing.
What about just have these 2 conferences just run your, the proposed, all right, hey, we want a 24-team tournament or a 28-team tournament. Just take the Big 12 and the Big 10 and Pac-12 and create a tournament with those 2 conferences.
There you go. That I will say this, though, before we move on to the Q&A, even if somehow if the Big 12 or the Big 10 and the Pac-12 were able to somehow make this happen, and the Big 10, they come back middle of October, they play their 8-game season. Let's say Pac-12, they pull something out and they come back end of October, they play an 8-game season, they push the playoff and all that stuff back a few weeks, and they have it like normal. Regardless of who wins and everything, I think there's still going to be an asterisk next to it just because of the reason that Big Ten's going to have an 8-game schedule. We have all these teams that are having conference-only schedules. Yes, I think if you have the Big Ten, the Pac-12, it will make it a little more legitimate because now, Clemson, they do have to beat Ohio State. They do have to beat an Oregon if they're there. So I think it will be a little more legitimate, but no matter what, even if everyone plays, just because the schedules are condensed, a lot of great non-conference games are no longer on the schedule. Like LSU, Texas, that could have been a playoff deciding game. Ohio State, Oregon, that could have been a playoff deciding game. Michigan, Washington. I mean, I don't think Washington would have been competing, but I think Michigan, they might have had a chance. That could have been a playoff deciding game. There were a lot of playoff deciding games that we didn't get. So again, if we get everyone back, I think it goes from maybe like being 50 to 60% legitimate to maybe like 65, 70% legitimate. But again, if that happens, there's still going to be an asterisk. But guys, it's time now to move on. Or you got somebody want to say?
Really quickly, I was talking about this earlier with someone here in Indy, and it was before this Pac-12 player or specifically USC players put out the statement like that we want to play. It's September 15th. Today's the first day in months we've heard a word from the Pac-12.
Yep.
A word.
Yeah.
And is anybody up in arms? Like everybody's up in arms like, let the Big Ten play. Let the Big Ten play. Well, first of all, let the MAC play. MACtion is back, baby. We want Tuesday football and the Big Sky. But, people are more up in arms that the MAC's not playing than they are the Pac-12.
Yeah. So I like this one right here. Nobody asterisk because kids have never faced this stuff before in college football. There may be an asterisk, but I think everyone will respect the championship.
It's one of those things. It's one of those things where, like, sorry, I just jumped in, but I thought about this too. Is there could be an asterisk, but the asterisk could say, "Look what we overcame." Not like, oh, they weren't here. It's look what we overcame.
Well, it's like what the NBA one's going to be, the NHL one's going to be, the MLB one's going to be, where
the amount of adversity.
That one I think is more legitimate just because nothing's changing. They're still having to go through the normal playoff format. It's just the location-wise and everything you have to overcome. So that one I understand why people – I think it was like even Oral Hershiser said it shouldn't be an asterisk. It should be like a gold star. Like it should be more.
If anything, baseball is harder.
Yeah, especially this year with the format. So again, in college football, like I get why – but there's a lot of games you're not playing. Playing less games definitely makes it easier. If you're playing an 8-game schedule, Arizona State can get hot. They can go 8-0, and all of a sudden they're in the playoff, where they wouldn't necessarily go 12-0, 13-0 during the regular season. So that's all I got to say about that, guys. We have about 5 to 10 minutes for the Q&A, and then we'll get to the Pickems, which will only take about 5 minutes because there's not a whole lot of games this year, considering one of the games I had on here actually got postponed, canceled, whatever it may be. So again, if you guys have questions for our Q&A, let me know in the live chat. Let us know what you guys think. For the most part, you guys we're going to try to go through these as quickly as possible. I think you're laughing because you already saw what the first question is. What is the creepiest thing you've seen in another person's house? I'm going to get started
I know mine.
I'm going to get started with mine. This is the creepiest thing that's in my house. Do you guys know the movie The Conjuring and Annabelle?
Oh, yeah. God, yeah.
You guys know like that doll? So that doll, the doll it's based off looks nothing like that. It's a regular Raggedy Ann doll that just doesn't even look scary at all. It's just kind of like a basic doll. It's still kind of creepy. In my house, my mom has that exact doll that literally sits on a little mini rocking chair
Hell
in
no.
our living room. It's the Annabelle doll. It sits on a rocking chair, and I swear there are sometimes I walk by it, that rocking chair is moving. That's all I'm going to say. Don't even get me started walking past that thing at night. No way. But yeah, so for those of you that are familiar with the actual Annabelle doll, the one not in the movie, the one it's actually based off what it looks like, that doll is in my house, and I don't like it.
I got mine.
I have a feeling
I don't know I don't think you do, Lyle.
All right, never mind.
I don't know if any of our viewers have been to Josh's house, but in Josh's living room, Josh used to be a child model.
Oh, no, I did not. Oh, God.
And there is just a life-size poster. It's like this big. I can't even do it. It's massive of Josh like, oh, Rico Suave. Like all Josh just all modelly. And that was the creepiest / funniest thing I've ever seen in someone's house.
Can I explain? So for my 8th grade, so when I was in 8th and 9th grade, I had like long curly hair, like not down to my shoulders, but it was like, I don't know, like kind of like Justin Bieber length, but like curly because his is like kind of straight or used to be straight. So I had like longer hair in middle school, and the teacher who was like the yearbook teacher that I had for a different class, her and my friends, it was like a smaller school. They all used to like make fun of my like Bieber type hair. So for graduation, we did all of these like photos for each person who was graduating. Again, we had like a 20-person graduating class, so we could do that. So like our graduation photos were funny photos of all of us with like a stereotype, and then like whatever, like those senior, what are they called? Where you like best hair and like superlatives. Yeah. So they changed mine last minute to best hair and used a joke photo of myself, like running my hands through my hair. And they printed it out. So my mom took it from graduation and framed it, and it's hanging in our living room, and it's Yeah, it's interesting.
I'm
It's
trying to
interesting,
find it.
all
I
right.
think I have it in my camera roll somewhere.
And that was the condensed Josh story, believe it or not, for about how that happened. But since we are in a time limit, Lau, what is the creepiest thing you've seen in another person's house? Is it going to someone's place and they don't have PB&J in their
They've
That's
got
always
orange marmalade.
well. Actually, that might be worse than no PB&J at all. You know what? We're on a time limit. I'll say yes to that.
No, tell us what it is. Screw the
Oh,
time
well,
limit.
All
We
right.
didn't know.
Well, I thought Brady was going to go one of two ways, and he went with the big Josh picture in Josh's house, and the other one was
Was
going to
this
be
like
because
known to be the creepiest thing ever?
no. Well,
Josh
I was
just
going to say
It's not creepy. It's just funny as hell.
I've
I
been
was
like 3 times. I don't remember this.
It's positioned in the corner, like
Maybe.
I was going to say the other one. Speaking of big posters, is when I was super young, our family took a big one of those Star Wars pictures at Disneyland where everybody's like responsible for one face and you take the picture. It's like Padme, it's Mace Windu, it's Obi-Wan, and it's Anakin, and our family took the picture. I've seen other families take that picture. I don't remember why, but our family like blew it up to like a life-size poster the way Josh has his of himself in his house and ours is in our house.
I
think
hate
we
the way
just
you guys phrase that.
it doesn't hang up on our wall anymore, but we still have it. For the longest time, it like hung up in our living room. So yeah.
I feel like we need to see this for next week's show. Guys, speaking of things that are creepy, what's worse, an Akron tailgate or watching Akron play?
A good friend of mine went to Akron. She was a swimmer there, and she said Akron had great tailgates. So I don't know what you're talking about.
I was gonna say you're hanging out, talking to people, waiting for a college football game. I feel like that can't be worse than watching
Doesn't matter
a
where
bad
you're
team
tailgating.
play, right?
Doesn't matter where you're tailgating. You're tailgating.
Yeah, exactly.
But take into account you are in Akron, Ohio. The weather's probably awful.
Hey, that's fine.
Well, all the Big Ten places are like middle
True.
of nowhere for the most part, but like
That is
Big
true.
Ten tailgates are fun. Or they're
Beers
supposed to be
and
at least.
brats, and I'm fine. Tailgate. I'd rather do the tailgate.
If you guys could revive any past football league, which would you choose?
Brady, go ahead.
Hang on.
Oh, it's not there, is it? You had to check to see if it was
I don't know
wearing
whether in the shirt. I don't think I have anything from it.
While he's looking, I'll double up. The XFL was fun, man. The AFL, I mean, the AFL is, or not the AFL.
AAF or whatever it was.
AAF.
Yeah, the AAF. That was whatever. But the XFL was like really fun. You're just mid-game interviews and all this stuff. Like, I know The Rock's trying to revive it. I hope it comes back because it was pretty fun.
Dude,
Yeah.
the Rock's gonna turn it great. The AAF was so much fun for the couple games that we had. I say that they had. I would cover the hot shot games and go to shoot those. They were so much fun. It was awesome. It was like high school football.
So bad. They were
It was
just
so bad.
Yeah,
I would say the AAF because that's the only. I mean, like I kind of watched the XFL a little bit, but like I don't know. I was just really mad that the LA Wildcats was the name for the LA.
Yeah,
team. Like, that doesn't even make sense. Like,
Bring back the AFL, the Arena Football League, with the Latin laser Nick Davila.
dude, give me the old school
LA
LA Avengers.
So
Sports Center, baby.
I think I've brought this up before. Indiana used to have an Arena Football League team, the Indiana Firebirds, and their best receiver was a guy named Eddie Brown.
Yeah.
He has the Arena Football League record for like most points in a career, most touchdowns, most yards. It's Antonio Brown's dad.
I was gonna say, I think I knew his dad played in the
Yeah.
in the Arena Football.
But if you're
League.
going to bring back the XFL, you got to bring back like the original XFL where Jeff Brom was a quarterback and he's like, do I or do I not have a pulse? I do. Let's play football. Like bring back
Remember
that
a few years
XFL.
back when they had it was dying and they had the LA Kiss. There was like a team that the rock band Kiss bought that they would perform like every time they scored a touchdown. They were just standing there in the end zone, and it made no sense. But that was
The end zones were like zebra stripes with flames, and every time they'd score, they had like cage dancers hanging from the roof.
like come down like the guitar. The like fire was coming out of the guitar. And
It was absurd. And they played at Honda Center in Anaheim too.
I know. I went to a game once because I was able to finesse a credential with my YouTube channel, and it was the stupidest thing I'd ever been to in my life. All right, guys. So now, sorry, this is a fun one as well, but this is not the one I wanted to go to. Captain Rob, guys, come to this one. Rank your top 5 fast food fries. Go.
You know what? I'm not going to go in any order, but I'll go Wendy's. Wendy's is solid. I will be honest with you.
Fantastic.
Chick-fil-A is overrated, but I'm going to put them in there because I do like the waffle cuts. There's just nothing special. In-N-Out gets way too much hate. I like In-N-Out because you know what's funny is they taste like, I don't know, potatoes. Others don't do that. McDonald's because look, like if you really like the salt, that's fine too. Like I'm fine. Like McDonald's is fine. And then for a fourth, I don't know what else is there.
Do chicken fries from Burger King count? Who eats Burger King, by the way?
I don't think I've
never eaten Burger King. It's the worst.
I mean,
all right.
Yeah, I mean, people aren't going to like the Chick-fil-A thing. They're overrated because like waffle cut is not that different from a normal fry. They taste the same, but I do like their fries. It's just I wouldn't, die for them.
Lyle?
Not fast food, but I'm putting Red Robin at 1. So Red Robin
fucking fries.
Oh, always 100% of the time, 100 times out of 100. Twice on Sundays too. And then I'm gonna put Chick-fil-A at 2. After that, like it's kind of everybody else. I don't even know if I have rankings after that. I like Chick-fil-A fries a lot.
McDonald's, I think, is hands down number 1.
You gotta have them fresh though. If you don't have them within
fresh and crispy, they're so good.
In a timetable, it could be game over. So you gotta
absolutely
gotta have them
fresh. It was so good. Chick-fil-A, really good. Do you guys have Freddy's?
No.
Out west?
Checkers?
Checkers in the Checkers in Romulus, Michigan, Josh.
It's like a year ago or like a year and 2 days ago today or whatever it was.
Yep. Steak and Shake's got really good fries. The best fast food fry is Arby's curly fries.
Ooh. Can't go wrong there.
Can't go wrong. They're so good. But like McDonald's and Arby's are toss up. But then the waffle fry I think is elite as well.
Yeah, McDonald's again. If those are fresh, those are by far the best. In-N-Out, any fry you have to have it fresh. In-N-Out, I mean, people hate them for
animal style.
I mean, In-N-Out fries, those are fantastic. Again, Arby's. I mean, curly fries anywhere. Those are going to be fantastic. Chick-fil-A, I'm kind of like in a mood. It depends on, just are you feeling it? Are you craving it? Are you vibing with it?
I totally get that. This guy's speaking my language right here.
But California, do you do the Chick-fil-A sauce?
Yeah, you do. You got to do the Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
Well, Blake drinks the ketchup straight.
Oh, yeah. No, I like shotgun.
Hey, Blake, what about the Coney ketchup?
Oh, where you just get the bottle and you just... Hey, Coney's fries, those things.
Chili cheese fries.
We got time for one more question. This is an interesting one. I think we briefly talked about in the group chat.
Yeah.
Thoughts on San Diego State playing at Dignity Health Sports Park? For those of you that don't know where Dignity Health Sports Park is, no, it's not some local park down the road in San Diego. This is in Carson, California, where the LA Chargers played. That's about 30 minutes south of downtown Los Angeles. And San Diego State's going to be playing there this year, while their new stadium gets built.
This is where the Chargers play. This is where the LA Galaxy play. This is where the former Chivas USA used to play. If anybody knows.
What a reference. What a reference.
And where the LA Wildcats played.
Did they actually? I literally did not know that. Okay.
They played there.
They probably played like 1 or 2 games there. Right. But yeah, I mean, this place it's like cool. It's a cool soccer stadium. It doesn't work for football. I don't think they used to have like the CIF Southern Section championships there. But again,
because we all know what that is.
It's high school football. It's like, it doesn't make sense. Like so first of all, the rendition for the renderings for their new stadium looks sick. Like it looks fantastic. It's like closer to campus. I think it's going to be in like Fashion Valley or whatever it's called. But look, other than the obvious of what's wrong with Qualcomm or San Diego County Credit Union Stadium or whatever they're calling it now, why are they going there? Like that doesn't make sense. Are they doing something to Qualcomm? or SDCCU.
No,
Sorry.
it's just terrible.
There's definitely some like rich high school nearby San Diego that has a pretty decent sized football stadium. They could just play there easily. But
Or I mean, why not? What? Okay.
There's
No, I
that.
guess
We'll
that
pull
would-
that
I
up
was
for
gonna
you,
say, what
Josh.
if they
We can
played-
talk about that.
Yeah, like look at this. Look at it. Also, guys, there's like no traffic right now. Blake,
Yeah,
let's go to
40?
San Diego.
an hour 40? Wow, that's
I was in
That's
San
not
Diego
happening.
a week and a half ago, and it took me 2.5.
so
great.
that makes no sense. But guys, you guys ready to get to the Pickems right now?
Are they going to fly to LA every week?
No, they're gonna take the team bus.
So pull the Phillip Rivers. Is they're going to stay in San Diego but drive up every single day for practicing games?
Yes.
Clippers
Also,
left.
question-
Clippers left. Chargers left. San Diego State left. Padres are all San Diego has left.
Hey, Padres are fun, man. I don't know what
the
you're talking
Padres
about.
are going to leave, and it's just going to be the American Hockey League San Diego Gulls, and that's it.
Exactly.
Last night when this was all going on, I sent a thing to the SB Nation Slack chat that I'm in, and I added my boss, and I say, will I lose my job for posting this in my article tonight for the Dodgers thing? And it was the Anchorman clip of go F yourself, San Diego. And he was like, listen, man, I can't make that. I don't make that call. If you want to go for it, I think you'll be fine, but just know you're risking it. So I said, okay, I'm going to decide not to. Just
Imagine if you posted that, and then you also got ratioed by San Diego Padres fans.
Yeah. All right, guys, it's time to get to the Pickems. I'm going to play the music on my phone because I know it was kind of bad last week.
Yeah, I've realized my cable was broken last week.
Can you guys hear it all?
It's good enough.
All right, I'll blast this stuff right now, guys. We got the Pickems and we got the leaderboard right now. We all tied with 7, and Brady. We have about 5 minutes left. The dinner just got here. My girlfriend just came in with our dinner, so that's fantastic. Brady has 1 more point because he picked Coastal Carolina over Kansas.
Starting off strong, baby.
So that's why he's got 1 more point, guys. All right, guys, moving on to our games. We were talking about them earlier. We got number 19, Louisiana at Georgia State.
I froze. No reason to
We
not
missed.
pick. I mean, this is the number 19 team in the country we're talking about here, guys. I got to go with Billy Napier and the Raging Cajuns, don't I? The answer is yes.
Ride or die with Billy Napier. Give me Louisiana.
Louisiana by 14.
Louisiana is going to be this year's Minnesota. They're just going to come out of nowhere and make a shot at the playoff. Houston at Baylor.
Give me Charlie Brewer and the Bears. I said this last week. Sick 'em Bears.
I'm taking Baylor.
Bear Don. Charlie Brewer and the Bears.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Baylor in this one. Boston College at Duke.
Well, I mean, we got beat by Notre Dame last week, but I think that's a pretty tough team to open the season with. And I thought that there were points in the game where they didn't look horrible. I'm going to ride with Duke on this one. I don't think that the rich man's Texas State is going to compete in this game. Win this game. They'll compete. It'll be fine. But Duke.
I actually have a little bit of interest in this game, and it's solely because Phil Jerkovic, who was Notre Dame's backup last year, and I always kind of wanted to see get in the game over Book. We never saw it. He transferred. He's now at Boston College, and he's going to be playing. So I'm curious to see what he's got. I'm going to take Boston College.
In a realignment Ivy League game, this one is going to be great. And I'm going with the Blue Devils.
Yeah, anytime you nearly get arrested on a team's football stadium on their field, you kind of have an allegiance to them in regards to having to pick them. So just because I almost got arrested on the field, I'm going to go with Duke. Number 14, UCF at Georgia Tech.
This is my ACC matchup of the week, boys. Forget about the Louisville-Miami game we're going to talk about. My UCF team in the ACC is going to I think they're gonna get Georgia Tech this week. I think that Central Florida is better than Florida State by a significant margin. So UCF.
I'm going to take UCF.
I'm going UCF also.
Whoa.
UCF is going to sneak in a win like MJ just snuck in the back room.
Oh, yeah. All right, I'm going to go with the UCF right there. Number 23, Appalachian State at Marshall. Josh, you're a Heisman frontrunner.
That's true. Don't sleep on Grant Wells the same way you don't sleep on another team. Wait, Marshall's in West Virginia. not in Tennessee. Well, you don't sleep
Close
on
enough.
Brent Wells the same way you don't sleep on Chattanooga. But, I'm riding with ASU. One ASU team is going to be really good this year, and it's going to be the one that's playing. So I've got App State.
I'm going to take Marshall, just simply because they dominated their first game. Also, how real is this 23 ranking with 2 conferences not playing? So I'm taking Marshall.
We're going to find out soon enough when App State wins again, Lyle, and they go up even more in the rankings. App State.
Yeah, I mean, I get teams aren't playing, but Appalachian State actually is normally ranked the top 25 even when a bunch of these teams play. So App State, they're a good team. I'm going to go with App State. We're bringing the worst of the worst, guys. So we have 2 teams that are currently 0-1, and they are Texas State at UL Monroe.
Well, like I said, rich man's Texas State is Boston College. Well, Texas State is the poor man's Boston College. They look exactly the same when they're on the field, uniform-wise. They're in San Marcos, Texas. I know a guy who went to Cal State San Marcos, which is in a different state. I've got Texas State as long as it doesn't come down to a field goal. I'm going Bobcats.
I'll go Texas State. Because why not, Brady?
You can't steal my bit, Lyle.
Well, you hadn't done it yet. You usually don't do it on the worst of the worst. You usually throw a random one at me. And it was the last one. I was like, I'm going to take it.
I was going to do it for this one because why not, Lyle? Instead, I'll tell you this. UL Monroe is actually named – you guys know who UL Monroe is named after?
James?
No, Maryland. Former supermodel Marilyn Monroe. Yeah, that's totally false. And so for that fact, I'm going UL Monroe. Because why, Blake?
Because
wow,
why
you've been kicked out. Because why, Blake?
Yes.
Because
I'm
why
going to go
not?
based on whatever the most comments are in this game. So let's see. We got Texas State 1, UL Monroe. We got UL Monroe with 2. Texas State, they'll be 1 in touch of this game. UL Monroe. Well, based on popular demand, I'm going to go with UL Monroe in this one. All right, guys, the final game, the best game of the week, our first matchup that features 2 ranked teams, number 17 Miami at number 18 Louisville.
This is going to be a good one. I'm not going to talk about all the Malik Cunningham stuff because Lyle already did earlier, but 343 yards and 3 touchdowns. Doesn't matter who you're playing. That's a pretty good day. They're 2 super similar teams. They both scored 30 points in their first game. They both had 490 yards of total offense. They both surrendered like 250 yards total. Bottom line, this one comes down to passing defense for me, and Miami's passing defense was not good against UAB, and now they're going to play Malik Cunningham. So I'm going with Louisville.
Look, I was high on Miami. Oh, jeez. The year I picked him to finish 3rd, and what in the world is going on?
Welcome to Josh's world.
No, the music's loud, at least in my ear.
Yeah, the music's really loud.
Anyway, that's why I keep stopping. But anyway, I'm taking Miami. Look, I'm Hundiera King. I have Miami finishing 3rd in the ACC in our prediction. I'm going to roll with Miami.
Man, Lyle, after you were so high on Louisville last weekend in the rankings and everything else in your star of the week, I'm sticking with the Cards. I'm going to go with Louisville, the capital city of Kentucky.
What's the name of their new stadium? Because I know it isn't Papa John's Stadium anymore.
That was funny.
Thank you.
But anyway, so
Callback joke.
question. It's okay. Question didn't get answered. I'm going to go Louisville on this one. I got them in Blake's bets. I got them winning. I think De'Ara King's the best player on the field. But I think Louisville has more weapons. I think they're the overall better team. So I'm going to go with the Cardinals. Guys, this was going to be our last game for the Pickems, but
It's just
Kevin,
sorry, Blake. It's just Cardinal Stadium now.
just Cardinal Stadium. Kevin came in with the last second donation. He said he was going to be watching these games. But let's just give our quick Pickems for these ones, guys. UTEP, Albaline Christian.
UTEP is like 2-35 in their last 37 games. Give me win number 3, baby. I'm taking UTEP. And then Clemson, because Clemson, yeah.
Citadel's back.
UTEP, Clemson, and Steve F. Austin.
UTEP, Clemson, and F. Scott Fitzgerald.
I'm going to go Albaline Christian, Clemson.
Oh, wait. I meant to say Abilene Christian. I'm sorry. It doesn't matter. This isn't for points.
And we're going to go – it could be. I'm going to go with the Roadrunners, at home back when ASU went to the Alamo Dome and played them a few years back.
Yeah.
Also, give me UTSA. I didn't pick that game.
There you go. So thank you, Kevin. We got some great games there. But guys, that does wrap up the Pickems. That wraps up the show this week. And
Wrap it up.
yeah, we got some more college football coming this week. It's going to be a fun time. And I just want to let you guys know that for me personally, tonight is either about to be the greatest night of my life or the worst night of my life. I'm wearing my Clipper shirts. Game 7. The Heat and Celtics went into overtime, apparently, so that game's already pretty nuts. So
Kind of 106.
if the Clippers win, it'll be the furthest they've ever gone, and it'll be fantastic for me. If they lose, it'll be the second time they've blown a 3-1 lead in this second round, and I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be like last time over again. But the Dodgers are playing right now, too, so that actually can make my night a tad bit better.
Or worse.
Or can make it. Guys, I might not be here next week.
Yeah, Blake might take a 100-mile-per-hour heater to the noggin and then just not be with us.
There you go.
He is no longer with us.
Before we go, just want to pick this. Last week, we premiered it Saturday night. Josh played Brady in NCAA 14, Ohio State, Oregon. It was a great game, so go watch that if you haven't already. This week, it's hopefully going to be me versus Brady. I still have to test myself to make sure I'm able to play. If we're able to play, it's going to be Alabama versus USC. It should have been the matchup we saw earlier in the year. Who's going to be who? You have to wait and see. But if we're able to figure that out, follow us on Twitter. We're going to be posting updates. It should be premiering.
And then, if it's not Blake, it'll be Josh and I again.
And then if it's not me, yeah. So we'll just wait and see. But anyway, guys, make sure to follow us on Twitter at the HH Show _. Make sure to follow the show on Instagram at Harris Highlight Show. You can download the show on Spotify, Apple Podcast. The link to that is in the description below. You guys can become Patreon members, and you guys can receive exclusive benefits. Maybe somewhere down the line we can play, our Patreon donors in NCAA 14, get those for future videos, something like that in the future. Guys, any parting words before we go on?
Oh, I like that. One thing, Presley Harvin, the punter for Georgia Tech, is an absolute monster.
The man is a wagon.
Have you seen him?
Yeah, he's a wagon, not because he's really good or anything, which he might be, I don't know. But he's a wagon because he's, bigger than a wagon, like a horse-drawn wagon.
He's 6 foot tall, 255 pounds as a punter.
Wow.
Dude's monster.
Hey, punters are people too.
Punters are people too.
Watch Pat McAfee post these videos on Twitter of him critiquing guys for. I think it was the Notre Dame game when Duke ran the fake punt. And they got the first down, and he's like, "This right here, play of the game. This gets a team motivated. This gets them back in." And then Duke did absolutely nothing. But
the most exciting play in football is the punt.
It is. But all right, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, we'll 3 of you guys will be here next Tuesday. I'm going to be a TBA. It all depends on what happens tonight. But
TBLA, what'd you say?
Schaefer Highlight Show. Schaefer Highlights.
For Josh Schaefer, Lyle Goldstein, Brady Klein, this has been Blake Harris. Thank you guys so much for watching. Give this video a thumbs up. Follow us everywhere. Check us out everywhere. And we're going to be seeing you guys right back here again next week.